The White House is dodging questions about when President Biden will confront China's leader Xi Jinping about all of China's recent aggression. Joining me right now is Senator Marco Rubio. He is vice chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, it's good to have you this weekend. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, Maria.
So what is your response to all of these aggressive acts from China? We know that the spying capabilities are about to get even higher. What is the response from the United States?
In the history of the world, no country has ever invested so much money so fast in undermining and overtaking the United States. The Soviet Union didn't have that money. No one else has ever done it. This is the biggest challenge we have ever faced. And so in a lot of these cases, that's why, we've been talking about these things for years, because these things have been developing over the last decade. Some of us that serve on intel, we see it coming ahead of time. You cited the spy case or the police station that China had in New York to target Chinese Americans who were pro-democracy and so forth. We've been seeing this coming for a long time, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. So it honestly feels like every day it's an avalanche of news. And it's one of the things that frustrates me is when I hear people say, oh, you guys are being hyperbolic, or you're exaggerating, or it's a red scare, or you're doing this for political purposes. We better wake up, because the challenge is much bigger than our commitment right now, unfortunately.
Well, that's right. And we also recognize that this is not hyperbolic. We, too, have had a spotlight on it for many years as following your lead. So, Senator, I'd like to know why this administration has such a soft response to China.
Well, I think you have to understand that for the most part, it's staffed by creatures of a failed consensus that's existed for 20, 25 years. After the end of the Cold War, everybody thought everyone's going to become free and capitalist, China included. And we're going to flood them with American goods. And by trading with us, they're going to import our values and China's going to change. And it didn't work out that way. The only two beneficiaries of globalization were multinational corporations, many of them doing business in China, and the Chinese Communist Party that in many cases wiped out American jobs. The American middle class has paid for the rise of China. The American worker has paid for the rise of China. These people are a product of that consensus. And so now they understand, okay, we got to be tough on China politically. So let's say we're going to do something about TikTok. But at the same time, they're inviting TikTok influencers into the White House. TikTok lobbyists have visited the White House over 40 times under the Biden administration, and they're not serious about getting rid of it. So on issue after issue, Janet Yellen spoke just recently, and she said two things that are really alarming to me. The first is, she said, and I have it here, she said that we don't seek a winner-take-all competition with China. Well, that's very nice, but China seeks a winner-take-all competition with us, so we better wake up to that reality. And the other thing she says is that our goal is not to use our tools to gain a competitive economic advantage. Well, that's China's goal, and that better be ours. Our tools should be used to give Americans and American workers an advantage. The fact she would say those two things tell you everything you need to know about why these are the wrong people to deal with this.
Well, you're right. And I saw the speech, and I kept thinking to myself, you keep saying we do not seek conflict with China. They're bringing you conflict on a silver platter. How are you going to respond? I think that there are national security issues today that people were not aware of just 10 years ago. So let's go through the national security issues as well as the economic issues. On the economic issues, are you prepared to pursue removing China's most favored nation status on trade?
Absolutely. In fact, I think one of the biggest mistakes that policymakers have made, and it was a bipartisan mistake, was admitting China into the World Trade Organization. You can track that decision under the Clinton administration. From that moment forward, you can track the destruction of the American middle class, the destruction of manufacturing in our country, the emptying out of multiple cities that were once vibrant places, the loss of industrial capacity, the over-reliance on Chinese supply chains for everything from raw material to finished goods, putting us in a very dangerous predicament.
Well, the other issue is national security issues, and I don't know that corporate America has gotten the memo. Corporate America keeps investing in China, and in a whole host of ways. You've been outspoken against U.S. investments in China, but now Politico is reporting that the White House is finally nearing an executive order that would require companies to notify the government of new money going to Chinese technology companies and prohibit some deals with Chinese sectors like microchips. Is this too little too late? Do you think they're actually going to go through with it? I'm skeptical, Senator.
Well, we need to see how it's written. We have actually had legislation, and Senator Cornyn and others have worked on legislation on outbound investment. And I think that's important because it's stunning how much corporate cash from the United States is funding operations in China that directly benefit the military. We think that their corporations are like ours. In America, Apple may have a contract with the military, but they're not an extension of our government. IBM is not an extension of our government. Google is certainly not an extension of our government. But in China, there's a military-civilian fusion. Everything is fused. Whatever advances they make in any field is also used by their military. It's all combined. When you're doing a deal with a Chinese company or one of their national champions, you're doing a deal with the Chinese Communist Party. You're doing a deal with the Chinese military.
Yeah, let's not forget there was absolutely no response to the cover-up of COVID-19 out of Communist China as well. And I want to move on to this topic because you've introduced a bill along with Congressman Dan Crenshaw. And you're demanding answers from the Centers for Disease Control about the pandemic-era messaging, the decision-making, the guidance. Now they're pulling the original vaccines off the market. They claim they're amending it. What do you want to learn?
Well, I think they've undermined the credibility of the CDC. Look, when we have hurricanes heading to Florida and the National Hurricane Center says a hurricane is coming towards Florida, nobody doubts the National Hurricane Center. Imagine if they did and people didn't prepare. Well, that's how we need to have the CDC operate. But people have lost confidence when you've got not just this guidance that's conflicting and constantly changing, but that it seems to me and to a lot of people to have been influenced by politics, right? What role did the teachers union play in having them continue with these mandates about recommendations about keeping kids out of school? I actually think they contributed to vaccine hesitancy by recommending vaccines that had not even been tested in young children, despite evidence, for example, myocarditis and other type related that outweighed the benefits of a vaccine. And then, you know, perhaps the worst spokesperson the CDC's ever had, the current head of it, Walensky, I think it was last week or right before we broke, that basically said the vaccine is actually not very good at preventing transmission. I mean, it's just, this is asking the General Accounting Office to go in and examine how does CDC make these guidance? What's influencing them? Is it just science and medicine, or are they being influenced by politics? I think we're going to know. We already know the answer to that, but we wanted to see it in writing, and I think that's going to help a future CDC regain the confidence of the American people. We need a CDC people can believe in, not one that's a political tool.
Of course, and unfortunately, the FDA has pulled the authorization for the original Pfizer and Moderna COVID vaccines, and now they're talking about the fact that they believe most Americans have immunity because of their antibodies. Didn't we say that 2.5 years ago?
Yeah, you know, I think there was a lot of downplaying of that. There was a lot of bad. If you recall, if you weren't on Facebook or Twitter and you said that you thought maybe this virus came from a lab, that was misinformation. They would take you down. Okay? If you said that the vaccine didn't prevent the spread of the disease, they would take your messaging down. You could even have your account closed. So things that were once considered misinformation and disinformation by these scientists and government agencies are now accepted facts. Or at least, you know, in the case of the origins of COVID, something that the FBI and the Energy Department say is the fact. So I think there's a lot to be concerned about here with this messaging. I think they've undermined credibility, and I worry, you know, we may have a pandemic in the future, and it may be much worse than COVID. Are people going to believe the CDC? Are they going to believe guidance? Are they going to be hesitant to follow their guidelines, knowing how they've undermined their credibility during the last pandemic? We got to get that fixed.
Thank you, sir. Senator Marco Rubio.